Welcome to the Southwest Desert, a channel that explores lost tales and hidden riches in the American Southwest. In today's episode, we'll recount the intriguing story of the lost Golden Eagle Mine, a rich gold deposit allegedly discovered and lost over a century ago in California's unforgiving Death Valley region. Our story begins in the blistering summer of 1902, when a grizzled old prospector by the colorful name of Alkali Jones set out on an arduous trek from Skidoo, California, to Searchlight, Nevada. Jones's route would take him straight through Death Valley, a punishing landscape that the local Shoshone Native Americans ominously referred to as "to-me-sha," ground on fire. Thank you for joining your desert frontiersman, Alan. Please leave a like or comment. For more desert adventures, hit the subscribe button. Packing light for the grueling journey ahead, the seasoned desert rat loaded up his soul-packed burro with the bare essentials: a small rifle, prospecting gear, jerky, hardtack, and a precious gallon of water. Little did he know that fate had more in store for him than a difficult crossing of the scorching desert valley. 2 days into his expedition, Jones found himself suddenly enveloped by a relentless sandstorm. Blinded by flying grit that stung like tiny daggers, he stumbled ahead until he spotted a welcome refuge, a solitary butte rising from the valley floor, its base ringed by huge granite boulders. Gratefully, the weary traveler made camp in the partial shelter of the rocks and waited out the raging storm. When the skies finally cleared, Jones's curiosity drew him up the slopes of the little butte to survey his surroundings. About halfway up the north face, an unusual sight stopped him in his tracks. The hillside was littered with chunks of milky white quartz rock. Excitedly chipping at the quartz with his pick, the old prospector discovered that the stone was shot through with substantial veins of glittering gold. Jones had stumbled upon an outcropping of a white quartz vein roughly 3 feet wide, cutting through the butte's pink granite and visibly rich in gold along its 1,000-foot length before disappearing beneath the sand. Knowing he had found something special, Alkali Jones hastily filled out a claim form, christening his discovery the Golden Eagle Mine, after a huge bird he spotted circling overhead. Placing the notice in a tin can monument, he gathered up 10 pounds of the gleaming quartz as samples before continuing his journey. Late that afternoon, the prospector trekked a mile north to the foothills of the towering Funeral Mountains. Climbing upwards, he paused to rest and consult his map, realizing he was perched high on Coffin Mountain, gazing down at the shimmering salt flats of Death Valley. His water nearly gone, Jones observed the mesmerizing spectacle of a mirage filling the basin below with illusory lakes and castles. But Alkali was no greenhorn to be fooled by desert mirages. Wisely, he turned his back on the deceptive valley and hiked deeper into the mountains, where he soon encountered a deep, promising canyon. Standing at the rim, he noted doves and quail flying upstream into the ravine, a clear sign of water. His hunch paid off a mile further in, where he discovered a deep tank of fresh water scooped into the bedrock, surrounded by thousands of birds. Jones gratefully made camp nearby in a sandy hollow beneath a rocky overhang. That night, the old prospector lay awake with visions of his bonanza discovery dancing through his head, the cries of coyotes and owls echoing off the canyon walls. At first light, he filled his canteen, grabbed his sack of rich ore samples, and set off hiking to the east, aiming to resupply in the boom camps of Nevada. After an arduous passage through the Funeral and Amargosa ranges, Alkali Jones finally strode into Searchlight, Nevada, clutching his Golden Eagle ore. He promptly had a 1-pound sample assayed, which yielded an astonishing $41,000 in gold per ton, a princely sum in those days. The grinning prospector had the rest of the quartz crushed, netting him $180 in placer gold. With his poke now full of cash, Jones hurried to outfit a proper pack string, buying 3 burros and supplies for an extended stint working his incredible find. Over meals at a local eatery, he regaled other miners with his tale and proudly showed off the ore that was making him a rich man. After posting a letter to his sister back east, the old-timer packed up his animals and rode off toward the Crescent Peak area, planning to resupply at some camps there before returning to his mine in Death Valley. But that was the last anyone ever saw of old Alkali Jones. He made his final stop at a mine on the flank of Crescent Peak before passing through Good Springs and vanishing into the desert. When Jones failed to write again, his worried sister traveled west to search for her missing brother, but no trace of him was ever found. Years later, Shoshone Native Americans crossing the desert east of the funeral range stumbled upon the weathered remnants of a burro pack rig, scattered beneath a gnarled mesquite tree. Rusted mining tools lay half buried in the sand nearby, but there was no sign of Alkali Jones himself. Speculation holds that he likely ran out of water somewhere in the vast, dry reaches between the Amargosa River and the funerals, and set off on foot in a desperate attempt to relocate the spring he'd found on his outbound journey. Whether he succumbed to the merciless desert heat or met some other untimely end, his fate remains a mystery to this day. As for Jones's lost Golden Eagle mine, some believe it may have been reclaimed by the shifting sands, as fierce winds have been known to bury other rich lodes in the Death Valley area. With luck, perhaps those same desert gales might one day lay bare its fabulous riches again. Or maybe, just maybe, some fortunate prospector will rediscover Alkali Jones's incredible vein of gold, hidden for decades in this harshest and most unforgiving of landscapes. One thing is certain: the legend of the Lost Eagle mine and the secret of its location died with the ill-fated Alkali Jones, but the promise of its wealth continues to lure hopeful treasure seekers to brave the unforgiving wastelands of Death Valley, where the ground itself burns with the reflected heat of untold riches. If you enjoyed this Southwest tale, leave a like or comment. For further desert romps, hit the subscribe button. Happy trails!